In 1881, Transvaal defeated the British in the First Boer War, securing independence for them and their neighbor, the Orange Free State. But during the peace, Germany established colonies in modern-day Namibia. During the scramble for Africa, threatening British dominance in southern Africa, plus the Boers were making incursions north in modern-day Botswana. So the leader of the Bamangwato people, Kamo III, sought British protection. And in the 1890s, the British took modern-day Zimbabwe after the Matabele Wars, essentially encircling the Boer Republics. Meanwhile, gold was discovered in Transvaal, helping bring the state from near bankruptcy after the First War. And under Paul Kruger, the economy improved so much that they began to challenge the British Cape Colony for dominance in the region. So fearing their position in South Africa was being challenged, expansionists like Cecil Rhodes looked to annex the Boer Republics to do this. Cecil Rhodes hoped to encourage the rebellion amongst the Uitlanders, foreigners who migrated to Transvaal during the gold rush. They lacked many rights and discontent within the community was high. So in 1895, Rhodes helped organize the Jameson raid into Transvaal. Without authorization from London, this raid, however, failed, and Rhodes was forced to resign as Prime Minister of Cape Colony. Plus it encouraged Transvaal to import foreign arms. And Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany sent a telegram to Kruger congratulating the Boers. And the Kruger telegram worsened Anglo-German relations in the build-up to World War I. And the British began to fear a German-Boer alliance. Plus Boer influence elsewhere in southern Africa continued to grow. For instance, many left on the Dorsland Trek, which brought some Boers as far north as Angola. So the British finally began to build up troops along the Transvaal border. Until September 1899, when Kruger sent an ultimatum demanding they withdraw. This, however, was ignored, and war was declared in October. Although the British received some foreign volunteers, thousands of Irish, Dutch, Swedish Italians, Germans and many others joined the Boers, and in the early months of the war, they helped the Boers take advantage of the unprepared British and lay siege to Mafeking, Ladysmith, and Kimberley. But in January 19th, hundreds of thousands of British reinforcements arrived. In South Africa, the British advance to relieve the besieged cities was temporarily halted at the Battle of Spienkop, a battle which Gandhi and Churchill both witnessed. However, the large British force continued, and by February, they had relieved both Ladysmith and Kimberley. And the following month, they took Bloemfontein, the capital of the Orange Free State. In May, Robert Bethune-Powell had relieved Mafeking, and in June, both Johannesburg and Pretoria were captured. After all of these successes, the British Prime Minister Salisbury was re-elected, but many Boers like de Lere, Jan Smuts and Louis Botha launched a guerrilla war. The 250,000 British troops struggled to maintain control over the region, so they built thousands of blockhouses around South Africa to defend their supply lines. Then Herbert Kitchener began burning crops, houses, and anything else that could potentially aid the guerrillas. Some captured Boer men were then deported to colonies, like Bermuda and St. Helena, while mainly women and children were sent to refugee camps. Conditions were so poor in these concentration camps that many died of disease and malnutrition, and in 1901, it was discovered that around 40,000 imprisoned Black and Boers died, many of which were children, as the war dragged on. The Boer guerrillas were increasingly unable to carry out their raids, and both sides became worried about Black people like the Swazi becoming involved in the war. So the bitter ends made peace in 1902, and the Boer Republics were annexed. Although reconstruction and amnesty was offered, the British governor, Alfred Milner, tried to anglicize the newly conquered regions. But this worsened race relations and fueled Boer nationalism. So when the Union of South Africa was declared in 1910, many old Boer leaders like Botha and Smuts were elected as prime ministers. But in the new South Africa, the Blacks in the Cape Colony lost the limited political power that they had, and land was set aside for Blacks, paving the way for the future apartheid laws. Plus, some were still sought independence. And during the First World War, Manny Maritz led an unsuccessful rebellion, and even in World War II, some like B.G. Forster, the future Prime Minister, was involved in a paramilitary organization that tried to undermine the British war effort otherwise. The guerrilla tactics of the Boers and the failure of cavalry forced the British to update its military equipment and tactics, better preparing them for World War I. And their initial failures worried the British so much that they finally ended their policy of splendid isolation and entered into an alliance with Japan. Plus, because so many people had been unfit for military service, the British introduced social reforms, And this marked the beginning of the welfare state in Britain.